Telephone Tales with Mirinda and Miranda. Once upon a time, there were two mothers. We can't really say that they were very young, but they were quite nice looking. The first one was called Mirinda, and the second, Miranda. Both had children. Miranda had two girls, and Mirinda two boys, but there were no dads around. You know how it is. The good dads had all been snapped up long ago. And Mirinda and Miranda were quite picky, so they ran a mile from the not-so-good ones. These mums didn't mope around. They went to work, brought up their children, and they visited each other at weekends for a bit of fun, like trying out different clothes. But come night time, especially during winter evenings, some strange feeling of melancholy would come over the two of them. Or maybe they were just afraid of the dark. They would put the youngsters to bed and then do the usual kitchen chores, make soup for the next day, wash the piles of dishes that had always accumulated, and then rush straight to the phone. The two mothers would sit back, put their feet up, find the most comfortable way to hold the phone, and begin to tell each other what's been happening in their lives.
Well, I let the milk boil over today.
I've had another call from the school.
But on the plus side, I bought myself a nice blouse.
And someone paid me a compliment at work.
They would carry on like this until they had run out of things to say. But even then, they found it hard to put down the phone. After all, it's not much fun being alone. And so they began to take turns at telling one another fairy tales. One evening, Miranda would tell a story. The next evening, it would be Mirinda's turn. It is worth saying that although the mothers had been friends since school, they could not have been more different. Mirinda was more of a tomboy, wore jeans, a boyish haircut, and when she was little herself, she had always scampered about with the lads. Plus, of course, she was the mother of two boys and some of their habits had rubbed off on her. Once, she put on Miranda's chiffon dress, and even her own children failed to recognize her. "Yuck," they said. "Take it off this second." Miranda, on the other hand, was quite the opposite. All bows and pretty flowers and stories full of princes and princesses. Whereas Mirinda's stories were about real, ordinary people. Old ladies sitting on a bench, shop assistants, police officers. But why not judge for yourself? Mayhem at night.
That night, there was a cat fight outside the windows. Three things had given rise to this hair-raising rumpus: spring, a full moon, and a neighboring female cat, Pearl. As they fought, they kept hurling insults at one another. "Swine," someone hisses. "Scum," someone hisses back. There are some cars parked outside. One of the cats, a spitting image of D'Artagnan, jumps up on the roof of a new Zhiguli and does a little jig, as if to say, "Up you come! I'll take you on one at a time." And then, all of a sudden, the car alarm goes off. "Thief! Thief!" Hearing this, the other cars also begin to cry out in fear. "Stevie! Stevie!" One foreign car even came up with, "Hands off! Hands off!" Meanwhile, on a better lit street nearby, a patrol car was passing. On hearing this musical mayhem, a cacophony of caterwauling and car alarms, the police span around switched on their sirens and flashlights, and headed straight for the scene of the crime. At that very instant, what an extraordinary coincidence! 2 thugs, a burglar called Philemon and a hitman called Rodion, had just managed to rope themselves down from the roof of the building to the 6th floor. They had been planning for a long time to kill the old and lonely Lizaveta and steal a priceless sketch by Shishkin. The sketch of the bear cubs that he could just never get right. In the end, he had thrown it to one side with a spit and a curse, and enlisted the help of another painter. Philemon heard the police sirens and also spat out of frustration. "I refuse to work in such conditions." "It must have been those damned cats that tipped off the police," hissed Rodion. He too wanted to spit, but he changed his mind. They jumped off from the 6th floor and went home. The next day, the police gathered all the residents together and commended them on their vigilance. The cats were also commended for their role. "I have always believed," pronounced Captain Shishkin, a descendant of the famous artist, "that love can work miracles. For now we have put an end to crime in the neighborhood. Carry on the good work, ladies and gentlemen." And everyone went back home to catch up on their sleep.
Down Castle. It was a wet autumn evening. Sleet was lashing at the windows and drumming loudly on the balcony's tin roof. Only 80 million tons of grain has been harvested this year, 20 million tons less than last autumn, intoned the newsreader on the television, lugubriously. Miranda quickly turned the TV off. Today, it was her turn to tell a tale. Oh dear, she thought. It looks like today's tale will be a sad one.
Once upon a time, in a faraway, county, there lived, well, obviously, a count. He was wealthy, noble, and still quite young, but he was terribly lonely. And he was a past master of the art of feeling downhearted. He would mope about from the moment he got up to the moment he went to bed, taking a break only for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He even had a sign hung up over the entrance, "Down Castle, do not disturb." He composed these signs himself. For instance, he had one in the bathroom that said, "He who is early washed and dressed finds it a doddle to get depressed." The Count simply couldn't abide any kind of noise. Noise distracted him. So, the windows in the castle didn't rattle in their frames, the rain didn't drum on the balcony roof, and his well-trained servants glided about silently across thick carpets. Nobody spoke out loud. Instead, everyone whispered like the rustle of dry leaves. And then one day, something happened. The Count was, as usual, wandering from room to room, indulging in his favorite pastime. "Just like a guard dog on the prowl, around the house all day I growl," he was muttering in something close to a rhyme. And then came a knock at the door. The porter opened it, but there was nobody there. But on the top step of the porch, neatly wrapped, lay a small bundle. "A baby's been dumped on me," cried the horrified Count. But what lay in the bundle, however, was not a baby, but a musical instrument. It was all shiny and strangely curved, with gold valves and some kind of decorative bits. On the instrument, there was a note. "Magical saxophone, deluxe, item number UA13-39. Instructions for use. Place to the lips and blow." The Count unthinkingly took the saxophone in his hands and blew into the mouthpiece. The saxophone sang softly, "I am moping, you are moping, let's mope together." "Hey, that's not bad," thought the Count, and he blew a bit harder. The sound became bolder and stronger. "Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is quite delightful. And since we've no place to roam, you and me, let's have a jolly good moan." "Hey, that can't be right," said the Count. "What's with the jolly good? You should be playing variations on the theme of misery." That's what I am doing, the saxophone said in offended tones. First of all, you should learn to listen. And please get rid of these carpets. They're muffling my sound. The Count rolled up the carpets and had another go. And it was true. It turned out that moping in tandem on a rainy evening really was very, very jolly. Okay, fine, muttered the Count grudgingly. Tomorrow morning I will try playing a jolly tune and we'll see what happens. And have some sort of tin tray hung up at the window, ordered the saxophone. Then we'll add some percussion, and I'll be sleeping with you. My pillow will be beside yours. And one more thing.
That's quite enough.
Shrieked Mirinda.
I know what comes next. By morning, your saxophone will have turned into a beautiful princess. Sleep tight.
Miranda giggled and hung up.